Thank you, Jenna and the choir, our musicians. Thank you very much. When I sent the what the topic was going to be today out, I was thinking, but I hope she does the rose. Well, you didn't list that on the songs, and the agenda that came, and I was a little disappointed, but thank you all very, very much. And I had kind of a little opening, but the sacred reading just really sets the tone and frames today's talk perfectly. Holmes described love as the central flame of the universe. And it seems quite fitting to meditate on this idea today because his description recognizes the divine feminine in all of us, regardless of gender. Let this be what we remember as we celebrate the divine feminine. So, welcome everyone. It's great to see everybody on this beautiful, beautiful Mother's Day. Thank you for coming out, and happy Mother's Day to everyone, regardless of gender. So, happy Mother's Day. This morning I opened my email and it popped in a post. Reverend Wada Rasuli, who came here several years ago and gave a talk, wrote this: "Humans are the only animal in the known universe that grow up and blame their parents. It is our parents' job to keep us alive until we can keep ourselves alive. You being here complaining about your mother is a self-evident truth that she successfully did her job." Mother's Day was started by a lady by the name of Anna Jarvis, and her mother had encouraged her to somehow set aside a day to honor her mother. And she thought that it ought to be some type of a national holiday or something. And after her mother passed away, Anna Jarvis started this tradition in 1905 at a small Methodist church in West Virginia. And it has grown today into something much, much larger than that. And it is really a boon to the flower industry. 1/4 of all flower purchases throughout the year were done on Thursday, Friday, Saturday of this week. It is a $2.4 billion industry in the United States today. 69% of those celebrating Mother's Day buy flowers, and 72% of the gifts which are purchases will be either flowers or. So you can see that Mother's Day and flowers go hand in hand. The title of my talk today is A Mother's Day Bouquet. So I have a bouquet for each and every one of you. And I haven't told them yet. I'm kind of in trouble here, but our Prac 1 students have volunteered at the end of service to help me pass out a carnation for each and every person here today, to every mother that's here, regardless of gender. So at the end of service, if you'll help me pass out a carnation to everyone, I would greatly appreciate it. And we do the carnation because that was Anna Jarvis's mother's favorite flower, and that is the carnation has become sort of the flower of Mother's Day. So at the end, be sure and get your Mother's Day bouquet. But today I have a spiritual bouquet for everyone, a metaphorical bouquet for everyone. So I have an array of flowers here for everyone. And our first flower is the carnation. The name carnation comes either from the Greek koron, which is the derivative would be corona, or the crown, and it is a crown of flowers. Or it can be from the Latin carnus, which is flesh, the color of flesh. Once the skin is removed, is that pink carnation color.
That's what I wanted to think of Mother's Day.
Maybe that wasn't a very good. Let's back up on that. So, what is the metaphysical meaning of this?
Too late.
It's way too late.
You do want to know the metaphysical.
Oh yeah. Well, it is the divine creative, and mothers being the source of creation of all life. And in our philosophy, we talk about the seed, soil, plant. We talk about spirit, soul, and body. Well, it is that very soul that is the mother, that is the creative, right, that gives us all life. So that is the connection to the carnation. It is the seed of life for all of us. Let's move on to our next plant right away. Next flower. The next flower in my bouquet for each and every one of you is the rose. What a beautiful analogy. Thank you. And there is a Latin phrase, sub rosa. That comes from the tradition in Roman times that if there was a confidential or a private conversation going on in a room, that there would be a rose placed on the door, sub rosa, under the rose. So this gives us an idea that the rose also gives us a confidentiality and a sacredness, a secret kind of a place. And where I take that from our teaching from a metaphysical standpoint is that we can see beyond the effects. Mothers can see beyond the effects and love us unconditionally. Truly unconditional mother's love represented by the rose. The next flower is in my bouquet for you, is the gladiolus. Comes from the Latin gladius, which is the word for sword. It's a symbol of strength and moral integrity. It's illustrated by a story. I don't know if this is true or not. I don't know if that happened exactly this way or not, but that's unimportant. What's important is the story. And once upon a time, there were warring tribes. One group of tribes was down in the valley and they lived there, and the other group, the tribes, lived up on the mountainside, and they warred with one another. They fought. And one day the mountain tribes came down and raided the valley tribes, and they stole their stores and they burned and they looted, and they stole a baby and went back up the mountain. Well, the valley people were incensed by this. They were furious and they wanted retribution. They wanted to get even, and they wanted to get back up the mountain and retrieve this baby. And so they did a search, and they got, of all of their strongest men, their best warriors, the fiercest warriors and the strongest, fastest men. And they began to go up the mountain, and they got higher in the mountain, but they didn't know the trails, and they didn't know the cliffs, and they didn't know the dangers of the mountain. They didn't see all this, and the mountain people were able to pick them off, and they were able to take advantage of their ignorance of the terrain, and they were able to easily defeat them. And after many, many attempts at trying to get up the mountain and subdue these mountain people, the valley people were disheartened, and they were getting ready to go. And so the leader said, tomorrow morning we go back down the valley, defeated again. And in the morning, as they were packing up their tents and getting ready to go, the leader looked up and he was stunned to see coming down the mountain a woman from the valley community. A woman came down the valley, and she had her baby on her back. And she came down, and he said to her, how is this possible when our strongest, fastest, most fierce men couldn't even penetrate and get up here? How did you get up and get your baby and come back down? And she looked at him and she said, you are not their mother. And so this represents the sword, the symbol of strength of the gladius. Moral integrity. The next flower in my bouquet to each and every one of you is the hydrangea. Comes from the Greek hydros, which is water, and angios, which is a jar or a vessel. So put together, the hydrangea is a water barrel. That symbolizes life, for we recognize in this teaching there is but one life. And that life is the life of God, and that life is the life of each and every one of us. And that life cannot exist without water, and that life cannot exist without the divine feminine. It cannot exist without the mother within each and every one of us. My next flower in my bouquet for you today is the sunflower. The sunflower turns and follows the sun across the horizon every day. Another story here. This is a story that happened in China in 1972. A baby actually fell off a table, and it was paralyzed from the neck up and down, and was never able to recover. And the mother carried this baby through infancy, through teenage years. Mother, who only weighed less than 90 pounds, carried this adult man who weighed over 190 pounds for 46 years. And once when she was asked, how can you do this? How is this possible for you to continue to carry this man all the time? And her response was, he's not heavy. He's my son. And that's the mother's love. The mother's love that can always think positively, can always see the best, that can always turn to the sun. So we include the sunflower in our bouquet for you. Our next flower is the peony, the beautiful peony. It grows on the slender, slender stem. And this beautiful big flower occasionally grows so big that that slender stem cannot support it, and it bends over, but it doesn't break. The peony is flexible, and it reaches down and blooms closer to the ground. And in our teaching, that's open at the top. We are flexible in our teaching. We are open at the top. We're open to new ideas. We don't have a rigid dogma to follow. You're encouraged in our teaching not to think as I do or anyone else does, but to think for yourself. We don't teach you what to think. The best we can hope for is to maybe teach you how to think. Our next flower is the iris. My mother's name was Iris, so I had to include the iris. It's a symbol of faith and valor and wisdom, the three petals of the iris. Also adopted by the French as the fleur-de-lis, the national flower of France. The three petals also represent the Trinity. And the Trinity has existed in many, if not most, maybe all religions, I don't know. But the Trinity exists in much of what we do. And of course, in Christianity, we have the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. You know, in science of mind, once again, we have our teaching symbol. We've got the seed, soil, plant. We've got spirit, soul, and body. So we have the iris representing the Trinity. Our next flower is the heather. The scientific name is Calluna vulgaris. It comes from the Greek kalum, which means to clean or to brush. In ancient times, the heather was collected and tied with a rope at the end of a stick and used to sweep and to clean. And the vulgaris definition is common. It's a very common plant in some areas of the world. And this is not common as being low, but it means it's many places at many times, vulgarius. And so in our teaching, where this comes to, is that we use our principles commonly. We use our principles in everyday life. Every day we use the principles that we embrace and we talk about. Mothers, what a wonderful gift for each of us. Mothers, and what a day to celebrate. Mothers have a wisdom that not everyone always has. They seem to be able to dig in and know. Reminded of a story, an 88-year-old woman went on a date. And she went on a date with a 93-year-old man. And she got home at the end of the evening, and she lived with her daughter, and she got home, and her daughter could tell that Mom was a little upset, and she says, "Mom, how did the date go? How did it go? Is everything okay?" And Mom says, "Well," she says, "I had to slap him 3 times." "My goodness, well, did he try to get fresh with you?" She said, "No, I just wanted to make sure he was still breathing." See, mothers have that knowledge. They have that inner knowingness. Our final flower in my bouquet to you is the chrysanthemum. The unfolding petals within the chrysanthemum represent pure perfection. And you see, that's so perfect for mothers, because as the mother holds that baby, the mother holds that beautiful baby, what does she see? She sees perfection. On cue or what? I mean, it doesn't get any better. Pure perfection. And in our teaching, that's what we do, is we see beyond the effects. We see beyond sins. We see beyond mistakes and go straight to the truth. The truth is that we are all perfect, just as we are, in every way. The chrysanthemum is pure perfection. What I want you to take away today, this comes from Irma Bombeck. I love her. Irma Bombeck wrote, "For the first 4 or 5 years after I had children, I considered motherhood a temporary condition, not a calling. It was a time in my life that was set aside for exhaustion and long hours. It would pass. And then one afternoon, as I was leaving a supermarket with 3 kids in tow, pushing a cart with 4 wheels that were each going a different direction, my toddler son got away from me. Just outside the door, he ran toward a machine holding bubble gum in a glass dome. In a voice that shattered glass, he shouted, 'Gimme, gimme, gimme!' I told him that I would give him what for if he didn't stop shouting and get in the car. As I physically tried to pry his body from around the bubblegum machine, he pulled the entire thing over. Glass and balls of bubble gum went all over the parking lot. We had now attracted a sizable crowd. I told him he'd never see a cartoon as long as he lived. And if he didn't control his temper, he's going to be making license plates for the state. He tried to stifle his sobs as he looked around at the staring crowd. And then he did something that I was to remember for the rest of my life. In his helpless quest for comfort, he turned to the only one that he trusted his emotions with, me. He threw his arms around my knees and held on for dear life. I had humiliated him, I had chastised him, and I had berated him, but I was still all he had. That single incident defined my role. I was a major force in this child's life. Motherhood is demanding, it is infinitely important, and a lifelong commitment. When her children are grown and have children of their own, a mother is still a mother. And so each and every one of you are mothers, now and always. And so it is with this awareness of our own inherent divine femininity that I ask my colleagues, the practitioners, to join me in holding our congregation in love and light. And so as I step into this prayer in this moment, I just simply offer my bouquet, my Mother's Day bouquet of love to each and every one of you. And all of the things that our beautiful flowers represent, all of the truth that truly is, all of the truth of who we really are. Knowing that as a mother we can see beyond dis-ease and know true perfection. He's not heavy, he's my son. Know that as we face the challenges in life, the appearance of disconnect, the appearance of separation, that more than anything else, we are the mother's love. We are the love of the rose. We are that divine feminine love. And that love is greater than anything. And that love, even though buried beneath the snow, in the spring becomes the rose. And I know that as we face sometimes the appearance of lack and limitation, that the strength of the mother provides. That infinite intelligence, that divine creative force which made all of the heavens, made all of that is, certainly has within its capability of providing for us. And that all of our needs are already met in this and in every way. Every one of us has enough to eat, enough pure water to drink. And we open up and we accept. And so I just give thanks now. I give thanks for the divine feminine that lives within each and every one of us. I give thanks, and I release this word to the working of law that always responds. I give thanks, I let it go, I let it be, and so it is.